Today we will talk about the generation of tablets from the Apple family. iPad Mini 6. Apple will surely introduce the iPad Mini 6 in 2021. The tablet won't just be an extension of the compact iPad line. It'll also be Apple's smallest tablet ever. Unless, of course, the guys from Cupertino decide to use Face ID in the next generation iPad Mini. Already now we can see what the iPad Mini 6 will look like if you reduce the frames and remove the Touch ID fingerprint scanner. That is, make a device with an iPad Pro design, just with more compact sizes. In their new concept, some designers introduced the iPad Mini, which is almost 20% smaller than the current generation tablet of the same name. This can be achieved if Apple retains the same 7.9-inch display in the iPad Mini 6, but drastically resizes the front panel to reduce the total area. Essentially, it will be an iPad Pro Mini with minimal frames around the display and Face ID, instead of Touch ID. Earlier, Apple's authoritative analyst Minchiko shared information that Apple will release a new iPad Mini with a display of 8.5 to 9 inches in the first half of 2021. Perhaps the guys from Cupertino will really decide to use a screen with a larger diagonal. However, this will not affect the size of the iPad Mini itself. Alternatively, Apple can reduce the size of the iPad Mini front panel to adjust a large 8.5-inch or 9-inch display to a form factor similar to the current 7.9-inch iPad Mini. In this case, the size of the iPad Mini will remain unchanged, but the display will be larger. Other insiders said Apple plans to update the 7.9-inch iPad Mini with a Mini LED display in 2020. The advantage of Mini LED technology is that the displays made of it can be much brighter, contrasting and richer than conventional ones. They will also be much more energy efficient than OLED, and more importantly, the innovation will make the case of devices with such displays even thinner. Especially students have long wanted such a compact iPad that it can be brought with them as easily as an iPhone. If the size of the new iPad Mini is 20% smaller, it will become even more attractive to students. Why wear a lot of books when there's an iPad Mini? Now there's a second generation iPad Mini, and its thick frames compared to the iPad Pro seem ridiculous. So is the use of Touch ID, when Apple has been actively promoting Face ID in its devices for several years. Besides, it's high time to make a USB-C in the iPad Mini. Thus, the tablet will get a design in the style of the iPad Pro of the current generation. Support for Apple Pencil 2. Smart connector? Yes, the iPad Pro Mini will still be catching up. Apple will surely release a new iPad Pro later, which will be even cooler. But this will be the most important device update since 2012. However, after all, the iPad Mini was seriously updated only when it was added support for Retina screens. The iPad Mini was last updated in March 2019, along with the iPad Air 3, then it finally grew to an A12 Bionic processor, and support for the first generation of Apple Pencil. Steve Jobs once spoke out strongly against the concept of an iPad with a small screen. However, Apple later came to release a compact version of the iPad anyway. Despite the fact that Apple updated the iPad Pro in March, many are already asking what to expect from the next version of the tablet. In the iPad Pro 2020, engineers focused on the updated camera system and working with the new Magic Keyboard, which also supports the 2018 iPad Pro. The 2020 iPad Pro camera is working with a new LiDAR scanner for advanced portrait photos and augmented reality. And inside this iPad, we found an A12Z Bionic processor and 6 GB of RAM. In many ways, it's almost the same iPad as in 2018. However, by 2021, or even this fall, we expect a much more serious update. The next generation iPad Pro is rumored to be complete, 5G, Mini LED technology, and much more. One of the most significant changes in the next generation iPad Pro should be Mini LED technology. It is expected to bring many improvements, including improved image display quality and increased battery life. Why does this happen? Instead of one large full-screen backlight, the Mini LED display consists of many small LEDs that can be turned on and off separately. This allows black areas of content to be really black, as the screen components are simply disabled completely in this area. Apple is interested in using such displays because they offer a rich and wider range of colors, a high contrast ratio, a wide dynamic range, and local dimming. Mini LED screens are also considered more energy efficient. Meanwhile, OLED displays have problems with burnout, color change, and high production costs. For the iPad, this will be a serious step forward. While the iPhone switched to OLED starting with the iPhone 10, the iPad Pro still uses a regular backlit display. It is expected that other basic functions of the iPad Pro display will remain the same: 11-inch and 12.9-inch options, True Tone for color temperature control, Pro Motion for 120Hz refresh rate, and the quality of liquid retina. So is the iPhone 12. An iPhone 12 Pro, the next generation iPad Pro will also receive 5G support for the first time. The tablet is likely to include support for both versions of 5G, with a frequency of up to 6 GHz. Apple will still use modems from Qualcomm for 5G in the iPad. The company is in the process of developing its own 5G modems, but they are not expected to be ready until at least 2022. With the above in mind, Apple is likely to gradually withdraw from Qualcomm modems. The only question is when this transition will begin. Finally, the next iPad Pro update will also bring a more significant performance increase. The most recent iPad Pro of 2020 is equipped with an A12Z Bionic processor, which is technically identical to the A12X Bionic processor. It just boasts an additional GPU core turned on. A14 is expected to feature a new A14 processor in the next iPad Pro update. Apple's partner, TSMC, plans to launch production of the A14 processor using a new manufacturing process soon. The processor will appear on the iPhone 12 later this year, and then on the new iPad Pro in 2021. The A14 CPU variant for the iPad Pro is likely to be even more powerful. These improvements are mainly related to the new manufacturing process. iPad Pro has 6 GB of RAM, and it's unclear whether Apple plans to increase the amount of RAM in the next generation. Whether adding features like 5G and Mini LED will lead to an increase in price is not yet known. Technologies like 5G are commonly expensive and consume a lot of energy, so it is possible that Apple is using this as a reason to raise prices in the future. As for the release date, the reports originally reported that the next version of the iPad Pro would be released later. Ultimately, this means that the iPad Pro 2020 introduced in March will be the only update to Apple's tablet line this year. But the new model with more radical changes is likely to be a real hit in 2021. Should I wait for a new iPad or buy it now? The answer to this question probably depends on which iPad Pro you currently have, or if you're buying a tablet for the first time. My personal advice: if you have an iPad 2018, don't update it until we see what Apple has prepared for 2021. In addition, the Magic Keyboard is compatible with the 2018 iPad Pro. If this is your first time buying an iPad Pro, the iPad Pro 2020 is a great purchase, and you won't be disappointed in any way. And so guys, that was all the known information at the moment. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, like, subscribe, click to bell. Siri was with you.